everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caroline. I'm a lecturer in physics at a UK university. Thank you for clicking on the link. I post videos every Monday and Thursday, all about university stuff, student matters, what we get up to as lecturers. And like many people around the world, we are all remote working at the moment at my university. So I'm at home, I'm doing all my teaching and classes from home. My students are all at home or wherever they are in the world, they're able to log in and see the recordings. But yeah, it's going okay. It's going all right. Last week we started talking about report writing and in particular writing a good abstract. And this week I thought we could continue that kind of little mini series we've got going on and talk about how to do a good theory section. So I'm a scientist, so my reports will all be science-based. I read science reports, mark science reports, set report tasks that are science-based. And I've seen a whole variety of different ways that people have tackled writing the theory. And I think if you're a student and you're writing a report now maybe for an end of coursework or a last minute bit of assessment, actually getting a good, well-structured theory section can set your report up nicely for when you come to the results and the discussion. So, what should be in your theory section? Firstly, not every piece of theory you've ever read needs to make it into your theory section. You need to be selective and pick the pieces of theory that link to your results and your data and your analysis, and then make the connection between any pieces of theory that you're not using and why you aren't using those pieces of theory. So let's have an example. Maybe you're doing a particular technique and there's one very strong theory and set of equations that people use to analyse it. And that's the only one you need to reference, so you put that one in and job's done, that's your theory section. But maybe you've got a piece of theory that everybody uses apart from a small fraction of your research community, and they're starting to use a different theory or a different approach. So now in your theory section, you might want to describe both of those theory ideas and maybe explain why you're going to use one and not use the other, or why you're going to try both of them on your data set. Or maybe you want to give one of them most of the content in your theory, so you'll focus on one of those theories and one of those ideas. And then you'll only do a small section on the other theory. But if you're doing that, you need to include lots of references so that if somebody wanted to read about both the theories equally, they could go away and do that. And of course, sometimes with the theory, it's not enough just to say, I'm using this particular idea by so-and-so, and the theory is this. You actually need to say the assumptions and the limitations and the caveats that come along with that theory as well. Quite often I'll be analysing radiation-based graphs, and there's different underlying physics that can drive the equations and the theory that I discuss. And it depends on the energy regime that I'm working in. If you're a scientist, you probably know these terms: photoelectric effect, Compton scattering, pair production. But they happen at different energies, and that drives which underlying physics is going on in my system, and that drives which equations are the correct ones to pick to explain the theory of what I'm observing. So note any limitations or caveats or assumptions that you're making when you have your theory. In your theory section, if you're doing a science report, it's highly likely you're going to have lots of equations. Equations need to be presented well. It makes it so much easier as the person reading and marking your report if the equations are clear to follow. So usually equations get centred in the middle of the page. They always come with an equation number, typically to the right-hand side, whichever way this on the camera is, the right-hand side of your page in brackets. And then the equation follows the punctuation of the paragraph. So the equation is part of the sentence. So when you're putting your equation into your text, you need to think about commas and full stops and how it flows in your paragraph. So the best thing to do is have a read of other people's reports and see how they're using equations in their reports, ideally published papers and journals, and it'll get you the right kind of feel of how to include them into your report. Other things about equations is any equation with all the symbols, you need to make sure you explain those symbols in the text. Don't assume the reader knows what the symbols mean in your equations. You need to be crystal clear and in the text explain what each letter or Greek symbol represents. And if your symbol's in italic in the equation, don't forget to make it italic in the text. That's something I often see, is that there's an equation and the letters are italic in the equation, but when you go into the text, the writer has gone back to using them just in like standard font, and they need to match. So your symbols need to match the text to the equation and to be fully explained. And be selective about your equations. You don't necessarily need to show every step in a derivation that gets you from one equation to another equation. Unless that's a key part of your analysis or a key part of your report and thinking, you could just say that this is the starting point, you apply these assumptions, you use this particular piece of mathematics, and then this is the equation that you use. And then at each step you can provide a reference so that if the reader wanted to find out more information, they could go away and look it up. And that way your theory section is staying focused on delivering the key, crucial pieces of theory, the key equations, and isn't getting lost or confused with all these extra equation steps that maybe you don't need to include or to show. And really make that link very strongly, I would recommend, between your theory and your analysis section. So use section numbers, use subsection headings, subsection numbers in your theory section, and then when you get to your analysis section, you can say, and here we've used the approach of blah, as discussed in section 2.4, applying equation 2.3. And it makes the link for the reader very clear between your analysis and how you're actually analysing your data and interpreting the results that you have, and your theory section, which has got in my case, the underlying physics or the underlying theory ideas that are driving how I approach handling that data set. You need to think about the balance of your theory section with the rest of your report as well. So sometimes I've seen reports with a very short introduction, very short data analysis section, and a very long theory section. And sometimes that's right, because sometimes the theory is the dominant thing being discussed in the paper, and actually it's a discussion about competing theories, and the results are a smaller section at the end where those theories have been applied and evaluated. But sometimes the theory section is just very long because somebody's wanted to show that they've done a lot of reading and they understand the topic and they understand the kind of the theories and all the different steps of the equations. And actually it would have been better if it had been shortened a bit, because then it would have been a more specific and direct theory section and led more coherently to the results section. So just think about that balance in your report. Is the theory section very long, very short? As a reader, does it include what you need to know? Does it include the key ideas, the concepts, the key pieces of theory, the key equations that then, as the reader, lets you understand how the data is then interpreted and handled later in that report? And I think maybe in a future video, we should discuss that kind of balance between the analysis, the discussion, and the conclusions. I think sometimes it gets a little bit muddled as to what goes into an analysis section, can't even say it, what goes into the analysis section, what goes into the discussion, and what goes into the conclusion. So maybe next week, if that's helpful, we can have a quick chat about what you put into each of those parts of your report. I'm a bit disappointed this week. I was hoping to go to a conference in August. I was really excited. It was an equine-based conference. I've been using a data fusion approach for my nuclear work, and I'd applied it into the equine industry, and I was so excited to get to go and maybe discuss it with the equine community and see their views. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic and COVID-19, quite rightly, the conference has had to be cancelled. So it's not going virtual, which means we have to wait a year before I get to chat with that particular community. So I guess it means I'm going to have to take the plunge and see if I can take my conference presentation. I have written the journal paper, so maybe I'll put it in straight away as a journal publication. We will see. It's always nice to kind of get an opinion of the community before putting a paper through into the publication world, but we will have a look. Students are still working very hard. My undergraduates, masters, PhD students, all remote working, all managing to juggle work, home life, keeping everyone safe and looking after their families. I hope things are going okay for you, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're able to stay safe and that you're able to still enjoy studying. If you are a student, I hope that even if you're having to do the course online, you're finding it fun and enjoyable still, even if it's a bit different and maybe a bit difficult at times. Remember, you're studying because you enjoy the subject or because it's going to lead you to somewhere in your career that you want to get to. So enjoy that journey of studying. How cheesy does that sound? But have a fabulous rest of the week. I'll be back on Monday. I can see that the exam videos are probably my most popular ones at the moment on this channel, which I guess is because it's exam season. So I'll include a playlist at the end of this video with all my exam ones lately, and next Monday maybe we'll have another chat about something exam related, because I think that's kind of what people want to talk about at the moment. But yeah, have a good week, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the sunshine, stay safe, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.